Okay, it's recording. All right. Isabella, thank you for joining me. I'm without my co-host today because she's getting her second vaccine. So it's just you and I. Yay.
Well, exciting for her. We do miss her though.
Yes, we absolutely do. Yeah, but I'm just happy to be, speaking to another MSer, and there's always so much to talk about. There's this world, has so many highs and lows, so many ups and downs, and that we could probably talk for hours. I won't keep you for hours, but we could talk for hours about, what this is all about, really. So, yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and who you are?
Absolutely. I'm Isabella, as you said. So glad to be talking. Your podcast has been so amazing to listen to, and just so I was diagnosed in 2019. So it hasn't even been 2 years, so June 2019. And there's so much information out there. There's so many places to look, and it's totally overwhelming. But I feel like through your podcast, I've been able to learn more about like what MS is, what I need to think about, things that I haven't even thought about, things that I don't need to think about, things that I don't want to listen to. So I'm going to come back to later, but what to expect, what to have no expectations about. But yeah, so I was diagnosed in June 2019, and I was really lucky because I got diagnosed fast. And I got diagnosed within 3 weeks of getting sick, presenting symptoms.
Really?
And really.
Wow.
Yeah, really. And that's only because I lost my vision. I got double vision. And if you have double vision, they send you to the ER to get an MRI immediately.
Right.
And so because of that, I was able to get an MRI. And if I hadn't gotten an MRI and I hadn't been a white woman in my 30s, they might not have diagnosed me with MS. But I had double vision, I had lesions on my brain, and now I'm a white woman in my 30s. And so in terms of like the best worst case scenario, I truly believe that that was the best worst case scenario. So I started out feeling kind of hungover. Like I just felt like a little queasy or jet lagged or hungover or something like that. And which is really weird because I don't drink, I'm sober. And that just kind of started to intensify. And I thought maybe I had the flu. So I went to urgent care, and the urgent care doctor told me that I was stressed and needed talk therapy. Which yeah, really, really, really. She said, sounds like you need some therapy. And it's really interesting to hear a doctor say that for stress, I need therapy, because as we know with MS, it's like stress is one of the biggest symptoms, or one of the biggest causes of our symptoms, right? So the idea that stress is something that is a figment of our imagination or something that we create emotionally, and that it's not something that actually has an effect on the body, which creates a fight, flight, or freeze response, or causes an adrenal rush and causes our systems to shut down, like that's bad medicine.
Yeah.
But I got even more sick, and I started vomiting, and I hadn't thrown up in maybe 12 years. And so I also started to get really dizzy, and I thought maybe I had vertigo. Right. So I went to an ENT after trying the Epley maneuver repeated times. And the ENT said, there's nothing wrong with you. And then I threw up in a plastic bag in the chair that I was sitting in. And he said, okay, maybe there's something wrong with you, but it's not an ENT problem.
Okay.
And I said, clearly there's something wrong. And I made a same day appointment with a primary care physician. And I was really fortunate that I was in New York and that I had access to and the internet. I was able to sit there and make an appointment with a doctor same day. I didn't even look at the ratings. I just knew I needed a doctor. And I went in and I saw her, and she kind of disregarded what I was saying. I could see it in her eyes, when somebody's just like, okay, but there was something that I must have said, because she left the room and she went, huh. And she left the room and went and talked to some of her other coworkers. And she came back and she said, I'm going to give you a prescription for low dose prednisone, which is a steroid. Right. Because she thought that even if there wasn't an outer ear infection, there might be an inner ear inflammation, and then that might help that. And I started looking up neurologists at this point, because my stepfather had glioblastoma, and I'm thinking, this isn't a flu, this isn't an ear infection, this isn't vertigo. Is this something with my brain? And I don't think I would have thought that if he hadn't had brain cancer. I don't think it would have occurred to me that something could be wrong with the brain. And to be honest with you, I only looked at the brain because that's the only thing that I knew about because of him, right? If he had had liver cancer, I could have been looking up liver doctors. I didn't know. I just kind of got lucky and couldn't find a neuro appointment, because as we know, those things take months to get. But somebody had recommended, because everybody recommends everything when you're sick, right? Somebody had recommended acupuncture. And so I'm like, sure, that'll solve it. So I'm sitting on the acupuncture table at like City MD or something like that. And the first place I could find that had an appointment. And the clock just went like this. And I was like, okay, well, there's two clocks. And then I looked at the window and it went like this. And I was like, okay, there's two windows. And then I looked at, the cabinet and I'm like this. And I was like, okay, so I'm seeing double. And I was like, when I go like this, it's fine. When I go like this, it's fine. And I left there, and the primary care physician had said to me, if you need anything, just call. And so I called her and I left her a message, or sent her a message through, whatever system it was. And I said, it has progressed. I'm now seeing double. And she called me within 24 hours later. I remember going to work because I was still trying to work. I was still trying to go to work,
We'll talk about that.
Pride in New York. Yeah. You just think you're supposed to, and we don't know how to take care of ourselves. So I'm at work and I'm falling over and I can't see, and I'm supposed to give this presentation, and it's like my chance to make a showing in my career. I wanted to do this presentation because this is what I've been working towards, right? And the doctor goes, you need to go to the ER right now, and you need to get a CAT scan, or sorry, you need to get an MRI.
Right.
And so I looked up ERs with MRIs, and I misjudged. I went to a place and I got a CAT scan, and fortunately something showed up on my CAT scan. So they sent me to another hospital and I got an MRI. And it was terrifying. They couldn't get me in for an MRI that night. And I said, can I go home and come back tomorrow morning? Not thinking anything. Can I go home and can I come back tomorrow morning? And they were like, no, you need to stay here. We'll do the MRI at 5:30 a.m. And I didn't want to stay in the hospital. I didn't know where I was or who these people were. And so at 5:30 a.m. they did an MRI, and the resident came in. First year resident came in by himself, no attending. Looks at me and says, you have MS. And I said, why isn't there an attending with you? Why are you telling me this? That is completely not okay. And I only knew that because I had friends that were residents or, attendings, people that were in the medical profession. And I knew that a resident doesn't do that stuff without an attending.
No.
And then the attending wasn't there that day. And I sat there and I texted the one person I knew that had MS, a girl that I knew from 10 years ago, who I hadn't talked to in 10 years. And I just happened to have her number. And this is before I told anybody. And I just texted her and I said, I know you have this. I'm in the hospital. I do too. And she just said, oh, honey. And then you have to decide, do you tell your mom, who's 3,000 miles away, can't do anything about it? Do you tell your dad, who's out of the country and can't do anything about it? What do you do? And you just sit there. And I was just didn't know what to do. And so they put me on steroids and they said, you should feel better in 2 weeks.
Right.
Sent me on my way.
Yeah.
They kept asking, are you getting any better? No. Sent me home with a cane because I'd have been having trouble walking right at this point. Sent me on my way. Didn't get better. Waited 2 weeks and I tried to go back to work. And I kept calling the neurologist. I was like, look, I'm not getting better. I'm not getting better. Can you do another MRI? So they did another MRI. And they, at no point did they see my lesions like light up with the contrast. They never saw any activity in my brain. They saw that they were there, but they didn't see that any of them were lighting up. But on the second MRI,
nothing was enhanced on the initial.
Nothing was enhanced on the initial MRI.
Okay.
So it was weird, but I didn't know any better. But on the second MRI, it still wasn't enhanced, but it had grown. And at this point, I can barely walk. I am starting to lose, I can't write anymore. I've lost the ability to write. And they want to start Ocrevus right away. And I'm terrified because I look at the percentages of respiratory infection and all of these things. And I'm like, what about Tysabri? And I'm told that I need to get on medication right away. And I'm like, okay, let's do Tysabri. It seems less side effects and there's less risk. And then I have to get the JC virus tests because the test that came back at the hospital wasn't accurate. So I had to go to the, Quest diagnostic and wait for that. And then I had JC virus, so I couldn't do Tysabri. So they were like, should do Ocrevus, it's the most fast acting. And it just happened so fast.
Right.
And so I did it and it's working for me so far.
Okay. That's good.
But I did the first dose and then I went home to California for 5 days because I just needed a break, right? Couldn't do it on my own in my studio apartment anymore. By the time I went home, I could not walk. I was in a wheelchair and I had no use of my hands. And when I would go like this, oh, sorry, hang on 1 second. When I would go like this, my arms would invert. They would go like this. They would on their own, if I lifted my hands up, go like this. No control. So I went to, I fortunately, a girl that I went to high school with was doing her residency in neurology at UCLA. And when I called her and was like, I'm getting sicker and sicker and sicker, she's like, look, you can go to this ER or you can go to this hospital and meet with somebody that I studied with, or you come to this hospital and I'm a resident here and I'll make sure you're taken care of. And it was like, go to the best doctor or come to me. And I was like, I know you. And so I'm going to go wherever you are.
Right.
And so finally, by the time I got to that ER, what had happened was I was no longer able to walk. I had no voluntary control of my arms. I couldn't see anymore, right? Because the double vision had gotten worse. So this whole time since I've been diagnosed to when I get to the hospital, I'm kind of an invalid, right? And so they finally saw the enhancement on the third MRI 2 months after my diagnosis. Wow. And they immediately did Plex therapy.
Something new I have not heard of.
Plex, plasma exchange.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they did the plasma exchange and they did IVIG and they
Okay.
did steroids. So they like hit me with it.
Wow. So you
And
did steroid salumedrol? You did that.
Solumedrol for the third time. So I actually forgot to mention it, but I had done a second round of Solumedrol
Yes.
in sometime between the two hospital stays.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then slowly, I remember at the hospital one day I moved my foot, and that's when I knew that whatever they were giving me was working. And I went over the course of 4 months from a feeding tube and thinking that they were going to have to put a port in my stomach, not being able to see and not being able to walk and not having any function of my arms. Well, I guess, back to like, 85, 90% through physical therapy,
Yes.
acupuncture, and I got back on Ocrevus. So they stopped the lesion and I was able to, all this is because, right, I had insurance and I knew people in the medical field.
Right.
So imagine like, I don't ever, I always knew that I was privileged, right? I grew up in Los Angeles and I have a great, good education, and I went to college. But this whole experience was like, I am the most privileged person that has ever existed.
Right.
And that was heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time, because not everybody gets this, because people go for years without diagnoses and they don't get listened to. And that is just not okay. And so I guess for anybody watching, if you're going through that, if people aren't listening to you, it's like, you're not alone. And reach out to one of us or the MS Society, because they will get you in touch with lawyers. They will get you in touch with medical care. They will help. There is help. And I just don't want anyone to feel helpless, because there is help, and I'm evidence of the fact that that help exists. Although it's kind of bullshit how. But it's been a year and a half since since I started that road to recovery, and there's so much to learn. There's so much I don't know, but I'm so excited to be on this journey with like people like you. It's amazing. So thank you for asking me.
Thank you.
That was really long, and you should probably edit a lot of it out, but I don't know how to tell it shorter.
It's perfect. It is perfect. I'm gonna see if I can like do gallery view. I don't know. This is again my first time doing the live, like without Dana, or live a video without Dana, but we're just making it work. So it's all
great.
Thank you, first of all, for sharing. And I am a crier, so I'm surprised that I got through this without crying. So much of your story is similar to mine, except the optic neuritis. I never experienced any lesions in, that part of my brain. So I was just actually talking about the occipital lobe. But certainly like not being able to walk and just losing function of my arms, and like I couldn't wash my hair, and I'll never forget, I couldn't wash my hair and I couldn't open a can of ginger ale, because I thought I was like getting the flu, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, I'll just get ginger ale. And so I called my mom and I was just crying and crying and crying, and she's like, don't worry about it. So I went over to my parents' house, and at the time my aunt was over, and she's like, I'll wash your hair for you. So I was like, okay. So I stepped over the tub and she washed my hair, but I was like, who am I? Like I'm not able to function. This is so bizarre. But yeah, I want to say one thing before I forget, because that's another MS issue, cog fog. But the fact that you are like diving in and so willing to share and to emote and like be open about it is amazing. Dana and I always joke, and we have talked about this ad nauseum during the 3 years of this podcast. We were in denial. So for me to even say that I had MS or to talk about any type of issues was like, it was unheard of. It was terrifying, number one, because I didn't understand it. And number two, I didn't want anybody to know that there was something wrong with me. You know what I mean? Because we live in this ableist society that if you're using a cane, oh my God, you're on your way out the door, or you're too young, or you're so pretty. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? And you have to answer all those questions, and it's awful. But
I mean, I have to say, Dawn, it's my truth is that it's because I'm doing okay today.
Mhm.
And it's because, and you and Dana have said this on the podcast, that you know, you were in denial of what was to come.
yeah.
Right. Oh, I'm in severe denial of what is to come. I understand that it is truth, and I know that those things will happen.
Yeah.
Despite what doctors say, which is like, you know, we hope not, and that's the plan, that we're that's not going to happen. But like, but you know, I know that that's the truth, but it's because I'm like okay today that it's easy to talk about it, right?
Right.
Because it feels far away. And so by rooting myself in this, it's kind of a selfish thing in that I'm creating this community that I can be a part of for when things change.
Right. Well, just know that we are here for you, and things, they do change. I can't sugarcoat it. I love that you said that you're in denial for what's to come. I didn't think of it that way. I think it's just, it's hard to like be shaken up. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know what's going to happen, and nothing, we don't know. Life is uncertain, but having the MS diagnosis brings on a level of anxiety and like so many more thoughts of like doom and gloom, and the uncertainties that brings is, it's like a hard load to carry. You know what I mean? And so the fear of the unknown, the fear of that is what kept me in denial. But I didn't really know about it. So I was like, well, it's not going to happen to me. Like, I would go to support groups, and back when I was diagnosed 21 years ago, they had these support groups, and they still have them, but I would walk in and there would be, you know, people much older than myself, and everyone was like, they just looked different. And I was walking in with, let me tell you, I was such a fool. Heels, walking in, looking, because I was still working, you know, full-time job, great insurance, great salary. I was still like the diva that I wanted to, you know, and how dare I walk in somewhere with freaking heels on? Like, who was I? I want to slap myself. And not like high heels, but just something, you know, fashionable. And I'm not saying that you can't be fashionable having MS, but like, you had the audacity to do something like that, and then to walk out thinking that that would never happen to you. Well, life fed me some humble pie. You know what I mean? And I think the best advice I can say for someone who is a newly diagnosed individual comes from one of our podcasts with Ardra Shepherd. I don't know if you mentioned or had seen her, or has you know, seen anything that she does, but she's wonderful. Miss Tripping on Air. She said in one of our episodes,
Yeah. She's great.
She's wonderful. And I give this advice to everybody now: be proactive and not reactive. And like, really, you have to calculate every step from this point forward. Like, every financial steps, your relationships with any and everybody, like, make sure everything is in alignment. and with where the future may go. You know what I mean? But it may not. You may stay exactly where you are, which is why Ocrevus is fantastic. And all of these other, medications and therapies are wonderful. And they keep you where you are. And maybe you'll never have any type of flare or exacerbation like you had on the, at the onset. You may never have one. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. I know. But
that's nice thinking.
it is. It really is. But I guess I'm sounding like the first neurologist that I saw. He was like, you may never have any other problems. And,
Right.
But like I was diagnosed at 25, officially diagnosed at 25. And I just didn't think that it was going to get to where it is now. I never, ever thought. And I thought I would do everything right. Acupuncture, massage. This is every week. I was treating myself, eating right. I'm a vegan, been a vegan for 20 plus years now. I was running 4 miles a day, 4 miles every day. I was exercising. But then stress. And so when you let that enter your world, like stress will kill you. And it like, just, I don't even know what the word is. It almost like decimated my entire existence. You know what I mean? With what came to be after having a really, really bad flare. But I had a really horrible exacerbation and they gave me Solumedrol, of course. And I was non-compliant for 10 years. Okay. So when I did not take medication,
Okay.
I started with, when I was first diagnosed, I'll back up. There were ABC drugs, Avonex, Betaseron, Copaxone.
Right.
So the only reason why I took Avonex was because it was once a week. And she's like, oh, the doctor was like, you'll feel bad for maybe a day or so, and then you'll be back to normal. And then you just give yourself the injection again. So I wanted to do that because I felt like I had control over, what was going in my body and, kind of control over MS. And that didn't work. I hated Avonex. I hated sticking myself. The nurse came to my house to teach me how to inject this long ass needle in my thigh. Yeah. And he you have to learn on an orange because an orange is like similar to your skin or whatever. So I learned on the orange and that was not easy. It was not easy at all.
I bet.
So fast forward, I refused to take Avonex. I was like, forget it. I'm done. I'm going the holistic route. So I went holistic for 9 years, not 10 years, but probably 9 years. And then I had this horrible exacerbation, which knocked me off my feet, literally, crawling to the point, I couldn't move.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I get it.
And then I started Copaxone. That was it worked until it didn't. You know what I mean? It wasn't super, it's great. And none of these therapies were horrible. I just had this is all me. I just had a hard time because I'm just stubborn. Copaxone.
But I think that's a good point though. Everyone reacts to all of them really differently. It's not a one size fits all. It's why there's so many now.
Exactly.
But sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So after that I went on to Sabri.
Okay.
With a few Solumedrol treatments in between because I had exacerbations and, I have relapsing remitting. So I'll go into remission and then, something else happens, whatever. So Sabri worked until it didn't. I can honestly say, I think I went backwards with Sabri. I'm glad that you didn't take it. Because my walking had come back to normal. Like I said, I was running, I was exercising, I was fine. Like most people would say. So I had friends say, I forgot you had MS. Oh yeah. it was invisible. Nothing was visible. And I think that's what helped me hide in my denial, because when you're invisible with your illness, it's easy to blend in with everybody else. You don't have to talk about it. There's nothing to show unless you want to talk about it.
Right.
And then I had guilt and shame. You know what I mean? Like that's a whole different story, which we will probably talk about in the future with dating an MS, because you start to feel shamed of how you present to the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, will somebody find me sexy? Will someone want to touch me? Will they be afraid of this diagnosis? Or, you know, so many things go in your head, but we can talk about that later. So yeah, to Sabri, I was not JC positive, but it was the numbers when she did the tests, it came close. And so she's like, well, you have two options. You can remain on Sabri and I'll just monitor you a lot, like really, really every month, or I forgot how often. Or you can take Lemtrada. Lemtrada is probably something that you heard. And I was like, okay, but I want to stay on Sabri. I wanted to, but then I didn't want to, because I knew that it really wasn't working. It was making me feel worse in a way. And
That's
so
an interesting thing to realize, that it was that the DMT was making you feel worse. That's an interesting.
Yes. And I don't know, I just had different expectations of Sabri, and it didn't live up to those.
Yeah.
I remember asking the nurse, so do you think I'm going to get back on the track to run? And she's like, yeah. So many people take this and they do triathlons, blah, blah, blah. You'll be fine. And then it, like, each week, or not each week, each month, it just felt like I was carrying 20 pounds on each leg. Like it just, and I'm a tiny little person, you know, so it just felt like a lot. But so I took Lemtrada, and the way when she and that's how Dana and I met on the Lemtrada Facebook group. And the way that my doctor explained it was, she said that Lemtrada is a very powerful therapy, and right now this is like the powerhouse. This is the one that we are, you know, looking forward to helping more MS patients live a better, you know, have a better quality of life. And at the time, Ocrevus was not approved. Otherwise, I would have taken Ocrevus. It wasn't approved for relapsing remitting. It was approved for secondary.
Primary progress. Ooh, I should know this.
I know. I know this too, because I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't. I just know that Lemtrada was what she wanted me to take. And when she explained it, she's like, you take this year 1, 5 days, year 2, 3 days. So after that, I'm like, okay, when do I take another? She's like, that's it. So you take Lemtrada with the hopes of, so it wiped out my entire B and T cells, my fighter cells. So my immune system was like, talk about, it was just gone. Yeah. So COVID was like not scary for me, because I had already been living that way anyway, with masks and, you know, cleanliness and all that.
Yep.
And then, and I'm sure, you know, because you said your stepfather had glioblastoma, so you have to be cautious with germs and things like that. So she said, let's hope for the best. And I trusted her, and she knew how terrified I was of starting new therapies and like just doing anything different. I was accustomed to Sabri, and I wanted to stay there, even though it wasn't making me feel well. I wanted to stay there, which was weird. So it's like an abusive relationship. You know what I mean? Like
comfort and misery. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I took Lemtrada, and with the hopes that it would do exactly what it did. And I am one of the, I don't even want to say lucky, but fortunate. I am one of the fortunate patients that Lemtrada did what it was supposed to do. It wiped me out with my fighter cells, and it's supposed to erase the memory that you have MS.
Yeah.
And then when your cells grow back, they grow back normal, and it's as if you don't have MS. Did it work? Yes. Do I still have MS? Absolutely. Am I reminded every day that I have MS? Absolutely. Do my cells remember that it had MS? Yeah. Yeah. But I was using a cane. I was using a walker, was in a scooter, using a wheelchair. Not all the time, you know, but my walking was awful. I think I lost a tremendous amount of weight just for a whole bunch of other reasons too, but I wasn't me. I wasn't Dawn. And I know my friends were probably like, oh my God, this girl's, she's on her way out the door too, you know? But I was different. And I think can I run again? Yeah, I can run, but I know my limits.
Right.
I won't do 4 miles, but I know my limits. So through Limtrata and physical therapy and meditation and eating healthy, I think all of that helped to get me back to where I am right now. And so, yeah, so that's where I am. I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, that is, and that must have been quite the emotional roller coaster as well as physical.
For sure. I cry every so often, probably more, maybe 3-4 times a week. It's hard.
Yeah.
Really
I cried
hard.
this morning. Like
Yeah.
you said it earlier, the fear of what's to come, the fear of the unknown. Man, that's real.
Yeah.
I was reading Pima Chodron, who's become my now like favorite author. She's a Tibetan monk, but
Yeah.
she was saying in the passage that I was reading this morning, if you knew you were going to go blind tomorrow, you would go outside and you would look at everything. If you knew you were going to lose your sense of smell tomorrow, you would go outside and smell everything and you would try and keep it all in. And I just went like, okay, well, I know I'm going to lose something. So I got to go on a walk later. You know, but like, I want that on a plaque on my mirror every day.
Yeah.
Because the fear of the unknown should actually drive encouragement for today and optimism for what you have today versus like what you can't do tomorrow.
Right. And I think one of our other MS followers and friends said, MS teaches you resilience and patience. It truly is a teacher. And what it's taught me, and I say this all the time, I'm sure people get annoyed with me, but it's taught me to be present. Like, I think I shared with you that I'd gone to the beach recently. Like, I just got back today. I went to the beach and I literally just stood there and I listened to the sound. I like felt the breeze, you know, on my face and like just looked out at the waves and just like being in that moment and like moving my feet in the sand, like being able to do that. Because the last time that I was at the beach, I have to tell you, Isabella, it was horrible because I have developed heat intolerance. So I went to the beach with my son. I have a 10-year-old and my parents, we go on vacation and stuff like that. I'm still kind of like a kid at heart. So we're in South Carolina and Hilton Head, beautiful place. And it was really warm. And I didn't realize that I had this heat intolerance that it developed. So we're like laying out on the, you know, on the whatever, the chairs or whatever. My mom's like sipping on margarita or something. I don't know. And then my dad's like digging in the sand with my son. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go inside and I'm going to go get a lemonade. I get up, fall flat on my face. Did not expect, fall straight out in the sand. So I didn't realize that I had become overheated and I'm just like enjoying the sun. You know, this is great. I never realized that. So I haven't been able to enjoy the beach. And that was probably 5 years ago. So today and yesterday, like this was my first time like back since then. And it was emotional for me. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So live in the moment. I love what she says. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier to say and to register is something that like you believe in and value than it is to live in. But I think, I don't know, the daily reminder is helpful, but I'm just like your story and just like the fact that you were able to go and enjoy that, like it brings such warmth to my heart. And I think that's just something that MS is like, I don't know about you, but for me, it's like, I find like other people's enjoyment and other people's like experiences make me really happy. Like, especially other people with MS, you know, or other people with sickness or ailments or whatever it is, like their enjoyment of life. It's just like, I know that that's really, really true and really real, really real. Cause you're like, it's like, you feel it. You know what that feeling is like, of like true gratitude.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry, I have low battery. I won't keep you much longer, but
Okay.
I think having MS has brought such a level of compassion into my life. You know what I mean? So I completely relate to what you just said. Like when you see someone else with an ailment, that it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And you just feel for like whatever they're enjoying, whatever they're going through, it's almost like you have that connection. So yeah. I wanted to say one other thing. You touched on a lot, so you're going to have to come back. We're going to have to do a part 2, because and it's so important, because you talked about privilege and being a white woman and being diagnosed right away. I think that's true for sure, but I also think I don't want to say class, but the where you are financially, because
totally. Absolutely.
I felt like I was diagnosed quickly, and Dana, I was diagnosed quickly as well. And so I think when you have a certain level of money, or if you're in a certain position or whatever, you have that privilege. And there are so many people who don't have that. And if my parents weren't in the medical field, I wouldn't have had the neurologist that I have, that I still have to this day, 20 years later, you know, and she was the top of the line. All they had to do was make a phone call and she's in. And a lot of people say, well, it took me 5 months. It took me, 2 years to get to this person, or, not her, but, some type of great care. You know what I mean? So that is something I really want to revisit. And then one other thing you said, and of course I don't remember. I don't know. I don't remember, but it'll come back to me. But if I can give, one thing you said, okay, got it. I loved how you advocated for yourself as a newly diagnosed person, and we talk about that. That is so important, to be your own advocate, to go back and not take no for an answer, and not let that woman tell you, this medical provider say, I think you need talk therapy. Like, you didn't just listen to her.
No, but I did call her later and said, hey, just so you know, I have MS. And I was just like, hung up the phone.
I love it. And maybe you will need talk therapy after the diagnosis, but something is wrong with me and I need you to hear me. And that's important. I love it.
But you were about to give me some advice, and I need all of the advice in the world. So bring it on, please.
Yeah. Well, just, I'll repeat it. Be present with yourself, and be selfish. It's okay. If you are tired, I'm tired, I don't want to do it. If you have plans and you need to cancel last minute, it's okay. People may think you're flaky. I'm the queen of flake with my friends. I don't care anymore. I don't, because you have to take care of you. If you don't take care of yourself, this disease will eat you alive. And I think also it would be fantastic, and I'm not telling everybody, but talk it through. I'm always here. Dana's always here, but you can call me anytime. You can say, hey, let's just talk, because I'm scared, and own that. And don't run away from what you think is to come, because you don't know. Like right now, all you know is what happened and what is happening. And so just focus on that, and just stand in your truth. And being vulnerable is probably, I hate MS. I'm not going to curse, but I freaking hate MS. But the one gift that has given me is being vulnerable. I have learned the true depths and understanding and the profound meaning behind that word, because it's allowed me to be vulnerable with myself, be vulnerable with you, new friends, in relationships. And let MS be there, but you take control. You know what I mean? Like, if you have days where you want to be sad and you want to cry, great, but just don't let it like rule you, because you're so much bigger than it, and some days you might not feel like that.
We, right, are so much bigger than it, because like, to your point, like, we're not alone. We're not the only ones going through it. And there's always somebody that you can pick up the phone and call, and like, we're not alone. And I think that's so important. And I know your computer's dying, and to leave it at that, but like, I spent so long looking for an MS therapist and finding like the right person to talk to. And then I ultimately just gave up because I was overwhelmed by the research, and like joined a support group or started reaching out to people like you. And like, I will get to that therapist, but like right now, it's so helpful for me to like talk to other people who know this disease, to listen to your podcast. Like you interviewed a doctor a couple times on your podcast, Dr. Aaron, I think last name starts with a B. Yeah, Boster. And now I'm going to watch all his videos on YouTube. Like,
he is besides my doctor, Dr. Heidi Creighton, I suggest you look her up too. She's fantastic.
Yes.
And Dr. Mitzi Williams. Oh, she's Dr. Mitzi Williams, Dr. Heidi Creighton, Dr. Aaron Boster, and Dr. Kotchery, that's Dana's doctor in Milwaukee. Okay. Probably, and Dr. Bieber in LA, actually. Dr. Aaron, oh God, what is Dr. Bieber? Brandon Bieber. He's fantastic. Okay. Well, and he's out there in California. And can
we put those in the YouTube link? Can we put them in the names down there?
I will absolutely do that. Because they are probably the best. And I know there are hundreds and hundreds of others, but these doctors know their stuff. And I don't even have the words for it, really. Like, when I talk to my doctor, she brings me to tears, because it's you're more than just a patient. And we need that as MS patients. We need to know that I am not just my disease. I am a person. I'm a human with feelings. I'm a Black woman who has a child and who likes to be intimate. You know what I mean? Like, or the intimacy series, who likes to date, who likes to have friends, and who likes to like travel. You know what I mean? Like, all of that. Like, I'm so much more than the disease. So anyway, my point is, these physicians are fantastic. And what was the initial thing? See, I go off on tangents. It's awful.
I think we were just saying what great resources that you have, and all these great doctors who have important things to say, and you can find information. And I love that, like, I could just reach out to you, and I was like, oh my God, I listened to your podcast. I'm obsessed with you. And then you brought me back, and now we're having a conversation. And like, that's the beauty of this, it really is.
Yeah.
But thank you for having taken the time to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm serious. I will have you back, and Dana would probably be on with me when we talk about privilege and everything. That's going to be a great conversation. We'll set that up.
Talk about white privilege. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Have me on. I'm like, I don't want to say I'm the poster child, because I feel like that's a terrible, horrible, horrible thing to say, but I am happy to have a conversation about it, because it's an important conversation. And there was just a smidge article on like, God, what was it, in Momentum magazine, like non-white patients in Momentum magazine, and like that just barely, it was like tip of the iceberg. But I'm glad at least it's starting to be a conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Publicly, it's been a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep.
We were in Momentum twice too, I think, which is so awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. I know we're trying to
podcasts to listen to, or, people to where to go to get information or whatever. I know it's getting dark, and I'm sorry, YouTube people, because it's getting dark, but yeah. But no, thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank everyone for listening and watching the Myelin and Melanin podcast. And I'm so grateful, so grateful. And you're welcome anytime. And but like I said, we're going to do this again, but I love talking to you, and we're always here. I'm always here. Anything, even if you want to just like hold the phone or just have a conversation and say, I'm mad, and tell me like give me like, I don't know, a whole list of reasons why you're mad, or ask me a barrage of questions. Go for it. I'll answer.
I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. I don't want you to think you're alone. Yeah.
And I don't want anyone watching this to think they're alone. All right. Yeah. Well, Miss Dawn, I will talk to you soon. And I owe you those questions, so I'll send them over.
Okay. Thank you. Where can people find you? We always ask our guests, where can people find you?
Ooh, I would say reach out to John and have you connect me.
Perfect.
If that's okay.
That is fine. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, social media, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah. Email me directly. I am totally available. I am like one of those people that works too much, and I'm going to regret it in 5 years. But email me. I'm available.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on, and we'll be talking very soon. And I enjoyed this. I hope you too. Yeah.
Enjoy your Friday night.
Thank you.
Pizza or vegan cheese pizza.
I have Thai food downstairs, and I'm not even that hungry. I think I just need to drink water and go to sleep or something. Right. It's dark. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.